Coming up on the Showdown in A-Town, the Alabama Crimson Tide have become an offensive powerhouse this season, and now the national champs are back in Atlanta to fight for the SEC's top prize. But on the other side is the team they beat in January for their 17th national championship. The Georgia Bulldogs are still the powerhouse in the SEC East. Can a seasoned Jake Fromm and the Dogs write a different ending this time in Mercedes-Benz Stadium? Sit back and relax. The Showdown in A-Town special kicks off right now.
The regular season is done, but there's one more game for the SEC's top prize in Georgia's state capital. Welcome to the Showdown in A-Town special on WRBL.
Bringing in everyone, welcome to the inaugural Showdown in A-Town special on WRBL. The SEC Championship game is about to kick off later this afternoon. But right here, myself and the News 3 sports team will break down everything you need to know about the National Championship rematch. We'll start with the defending national champions. At the beginning of the year, we didn't know who the starting quarterback would be for Nick Saban. The only question we have now about the Crimson Tide is who can stop them. Sports reporter Justin Holbrock shows us how the Tide got here.
Every game we play from now on could be your last game.
How Bama got here really started here.
Think about Loa trying to make up for it. Fires to the end zone. Touchdown! Alabama wins!
It was a throw that captured a national title and the title of QB1 for Tua Tagovailoa.
We do understand that, last year is over. This is a new team. This is a new year. Same for us. So we got to come out with the mentality that we got to prepare the same way. Tua
threw a school record 36 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions while barely playing in the fourth quarter. With Tua under center, the Tide ranked 4th in total offense and 6th in passing at a clip of 332 yards a game. But the offense has slowed early on during the last 2 weeks.
You always want to make sure your team is physically fresh. But the more difficult thing to determine is, are the players getting mentally tired? I can't say 100% for sure if that's had anything to do with how we started in the games, the last 2 games. If we were physically tired, we wouldn't have been able to come out and play so well in the second half. But if we were mentally tired, maybe that affected our preparation going into the game, which affected how we started.
We need to learn how to start fast and finish strong. Throughout the beginning of the season, we learned how to start fast, but then we kind of motor things down because we're up by so much. And then throughout the second half of the season, we didn't start that fast, but we got the chance to finish strong. So, there has to be equal to that. We got to start fast and finish strong. Can't be one way.
Matching the Tide's offensive success is the defense. Bama ranks 7th overall in total defense, giving up less than 2 touchdowns a game. If that's not enough, just know they also rank in the top 15 in both passing and rushing yards allowed, and their 5 touchdowns on D are the 4th most in the country.
Georgia is a good team, and we're a good team, so the team who makes the most minute errors is going to be the team who loses.
But at this point, this year's success matters just as little as last year's.
The next 3 games are bigger than the last 12 combined, and so I think that's kind of our mindset moving forward.
Reporting on your side, Justin Holbrock, News 3 Sports.
In just his 2nd season in Athens, head coach Kirby Smart led the Dogs to the national championship game. This year, Smart's Bulldogs are back in Atlanta facing the same opponent this time for the SEC crown. And like Alabama, UGA had a lot of moving parts heading into the new season. Here's how Georgia made it back to their 2nd consecutive SEC title game. When Kirby Smart and the Dogs raised the SEC championship trophy last season, they also raised the expectation Georgia fans have for their Dogs. Heading into this year, UGA's roster had a complete overhaul. There was no time to worry about what happened last year, though. These Dogs, like their head coach, stayed focused on the future, which means new players had to step up, and they're back to defend their SEC crown.
How we play at Georgia, just like next man up mentality. So everybody's just getting prepared. Everybody's taking reps. So we're just getting prepared. Play anybody. That's how we do it here.
And it's kind of one of those moments where you can't even believe you're in it, but. I'm excited to get back out there. I know it's going to be a packed house. It's going to be loud. It's going to be exciting. There's a lot of good players running around. It's going to be really good games.
At the beginning, there was some hesitation about returning quarterback Jake Fromm. Could he continue to be an elite leader for the Dogs? Though there were some rough patches, especially with elite freshman Justin Fields waiting in the wings, Fromm finished the year with over 2,200 passing yards, which is down from last year, but he had the same number of touchdowns compared to last year at 24. An eye-popping stat about the Dogs this season is their rushing attack. DeAndre Swift, Elijah Holyfield have been the 1-2 punch for Georgia, They both finished in the top 10 for rushing leaders in the conference. The Dogs look reloaded and ready to try and take down one of the best Alabama football teams we've seen. And game planning against them, head coach Smart came up with one conclusion.
Really, you can say they've been tested, but I mean, the thing is, when they get on top of you, they know how to finish. It's Alabama. They're just really, really good at putting pressure on you, whether it's offensively, defensively, or special teams. There's so many ways they can win the game.
We'll see just how good Georgia's dudes are when they line up against Nick Saban's dudes later today in Atlanta. We've heard from the current coaches and players. After the break, we'll hear from a pair of men who wore the Georgia and Alabama uniforms and get their point of view of the upcoming SEC championship game. Stick around. We have more of the Showdown in A-Town coming up right after this. Guys, welcome back to the Showdown in A-Town special right here on WRBL. Well, guys, we in the media have some great access to both of these teams. We get to talk to the coaches and the players on a weekly basis and after the game. The one thing we don't have, though, is game experience, and that's what these two gentlemen who are joining me right now have. Mayor Eddie Lowe with the great mayor of Phoenix City, and DJ Jones. Mayor Lowe actually played for the Crimson Tide, a linebacker for Bear Bryant, and, well, DJ won a national championship with the Dogs. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. Well, let's do it again here in Atlanta, huh?
Let's do it. That's right. It's here.
Here we go. Mayor Lowe, let's start with you. The Tide under Tua Tagovailoa. How impressed have you been with the way he's grown from that second half to what he's become now, a legit superstar in the SEC?
Well, you know, I have a very good friend over there named Jeremiah Castillo, who he and I were roommates. And last year, even before Tua started playing, Jeremiah Castillo, who's at every practice because he's the team chaplain, was telling me how almost precise the guy was at that time. Of course, I had never seen him throw until we played Georgia last year for the national championship in the second half, and I think every one of those throws that he made outside of one was catchable. So it just reminisced back to what Jeremiah Castillo told me and how they've transformed their offenses from just a pound to basically a pass team with the pounding. It used to be the pounding then the pass. So, but to be able to watch him, he's a more humble person. That's why I think he's going to always have a chance to be successful if he stays healthy, because of his humbleness and personality.
What a test for your Dogs defense, DJ. Mm-hmm. But even without guys like Roquan Smith there, with so many changing parts, how impressed have you been with the way the Dogs defense has played all season long?
I've been impressed with the Dogs top to bottom because, again, the way Kirby has been able to come in and change the culture and change the mentality as far as the physicality and the competition. Now, you know, I can guarantee you the Dog Nation had no idea that Kirby would have us where we are right now after just a few short years. But you have to be impressed with the competitiveness. I still don't think that the Bulldogs have played their best game top to bottom, offense, defense, special teams. Again, that's a great thing about going up against it in this big rematch in this showdown.
How special is it, though, that we get it again, this matchup with these two great teams? DJ, we'll actually start with you. How special is it to see the Tide line up again in Atlanta? Maybe not be for the national title, but it is for the SEC crown.
Well, first of all, that's why we say that the SEC is the best football conference in America. And a lot of people don't like to hear that, but you see it top to bottom, and it is. Yes, again, just a few months ago, in the national championship game, the University of Alabama and the great Nick Saban beat our Bulldogs. But however, it just really fortunate to come right back to compete for an SEC championship, a rematch in the same building, Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, and again with a lot at stake.
Mayor Lowe.
Well, back in August, I did prognostication down at the Rotary Club over in Columbus, and I predicted that these two teams would play against each other for the SEC championship. Also, last year, I predicted that they would play for the SEC championship, but they wound up playing for the national championship. Even though this is the SEC championship, I'm not so sure, DJ Rex, that this not the national championship game with these two teams. And it's going to be within the trenches, and both of these coaches understand that. And I think that's the edge that they have. And I may be partial a little bit over the other coaches, because at the line of scrimmage is going to dictate who wins this game.
So, real quick before we go, maybe silly to ask, but I need a prediction from both of you. Mayor Lowe, which way you leaning?
Well, of course, it's with the Tide.
There you go. DJ, which way you leaning?
It's dog time, man. It's time. It's time.
We knew that was coming.
Look, it's been a long time since we.
Just the brightness on your screen when he holds that thing up. Y'all, thank you so much for joining us, guys. We have more of the Showdown in A-Town coming up right after this. Hey guys, welcome back to the Showdown in A-Town special right here on WRBL. I'm Sports Director Rex Castillo. We're getting closer to the 2018 SEC Championship game kickoff between number 4 Georgia and the top-ranked Alabama Crimson Tide. To bring you an even closer look into this matchup, let's welcome our CBS College Football expert team that have helped us all season long. Here's Aaron Taylor, Brian Jones, and Adam Zucker.
Here we go, SEC Championship, National Championship rematch at the site of the launching of the legend of Tua, Alabama against Georgia in Atlanta. Aaron Taylor, Brian Jones, Adam Zucker breaking it down. What chance does Georgia have to make this thing happen?
I think their best chance is to play keep away on the offensive side of the ball. That offensive line's been banged up, but they lead the SEC in rushing. They have to play ball control. That's going to give them their best shot. Their defense is pretty good on the defensive side of the ball. They kind of bend but don't break. They don't give up a whole lot of big plays. In fact, they lead the nation there. They can somehow contain by playing offense. I think that gives them their best shot.
I agree with you 100% with Georgia's offense. They're built just like Alabama's offense. And these teams, holistically, they're built the same. And their offense can hang with Alabama, but it's their defense, their pass rush. Can they get to Tua? You're going to have to move him off his spot, screw up his rhythm. I'm not so sure Georgia can do that on a consistent basis. 20 sacks on the season. Bama, of course, has only allowed 11 sacks to their quarterback. So I think the key is going to be tackling one for both of these squads because Bama has big, bad running backs. Georgia has big, bad, strong running backs. And it's going to be whether or not they can get to Tua. I don't think they can, and I think Bama's going to win the ballgame.
It's the big hypothetical. Can Alabama stay in the top 4 if they lose, right? We're going to get into that a lot on our pregame show at 2:30 Eastern Time. When we begin our 90 minutes of coverage heading into kickoff on CBS, the Home Depot SEC on CBS, Alabama against Georgia. Might as well be a national quarterfinal. We'll see you this weekend from Atlanta.
Right after the break, Jack Patterson, Shaquira Speaks, and Justin Holbrock will join us in studio to give you our picks for the SEC Championship game. That's coming up right after this. Guys, welcome back to the Showdown in A-Town special right here on WRBL. Well, this is the segment where you're joined by some familiar faces. This is the College Football Pick'em crew, myself, Jack Patterson, Justin Holbrock. But we have a special guest here. Shaquira Speaks, pretty much our Swiss Army knife here on the station. She does everything. Now she's extending her talents to sports and a dog alone. Right?
Yes.
So
2018.
There it is.
Always.
A little cheering favorite coming up on Saturday.
Yes.
So we're all going to bring up some points here. We'll actually start with Miss Shaquira. The quarterbacks here, Tua Tagovailoa and Jake Fromm. What do you have for us? What do you think?
So, of course, I have to go with my quarterback.
There you go.
Jake Fromm. No, Jake's been doing pretty well. I mean, everybody in the station knows I've been pretty critical of him throughout the whole season.
Of course.
He hasn't been playing to my standards. I think he's kind of been playing kind of shy, knowing that he has Justin Fields behind him. But he has completed 69% of his passes for about 2,200 yards, compared to Tua, who's got 3,100 yards and is completing 70% of his passes. So it's kind of the same thing, but they are in two different kind of schemes. Jake does have a million running backs behind him he can just hand off, and Tua just throws to Judy, and Waddle forgets about Damian Harris behind him. But what I'm thinking is going to happen, I think they're going to have a similar night on Saturday or similar evening at 4 o'clock. I think they're going to have a similar evening. They're both going to be completing passes. It's that defense that they're both going to have to kind of get used to. The good thing about Jake is he's played this defense before. Tua hasn't really played the defense because we lost so many seniors last year. So I think we have I say we as in the dogs.
The dog nation, right? Very well
we
represented.
have the advantage over that. We had them for less than a half, but couple minutes.
2nd and 26, right?
Yeah.
Still a little rough. Speaking about those
numbers, good Lord.
Speaking about those defenses, Justin, a lot of new faces on both sides of the ball for both teams. But when you look at Georgia, the way they lined up and the amazing way that Alabama's played all year, what do you see the biggest difference or similarities between the two?
So you said the quarterbacks are going to play pretty much the same. I think Georgia has a harder time because they have to game plan for the passing game and a quarterback in Tua who can also run the ball. Jake is not known as a runner,
right?
So that's a facet that Georgia's defense is going to have to step up on. And where they're going to lack is sacks this year. They have 20. And compared to that, Alabama has 40.
Wow.
So it's hard to sack enough for that Georgia defense, and Tua's a hard guy to bring down.
That's very true.
So you don't have a whole lot of sacks, and you're not going to get an easy guy to take down either. So that's part of it. And the other thing is Georgia's offense has to do well in the red zone. I found this stat. So in the open field, Georgia ranks 3rd highest in all of college football in the open field.
Right.
When we get to the 20, to the 1, they rank 116.
What?
When we get 5 yards in to the end zone,
right,
they rank dead last in college football.
Wow.
129.
That's an incredible stat.
So excuse me, it was 10 to the end zone. They rank 116, but they rank dead last 5 to the goal line.
That's knocking on the door and they can't punch it in.
Last.
Dead last.
Alabama's defense is ranked 7th total in the country. If you can't score inside the 5, inside the 10, this game's over. Settle for field goals, there's no chance.
Yeah, you can't trade field goals with an offense.
The defenses are very similar though when it comes to pass defense, rush defense.
Well,
they're pretty much in the same ballpark. Yeah, they're true. We found that out last year and this year.
And the year before.
Yes.
I'll get to that.
But when it comes to points per game, Alabama doesn't rely on kicking.
Yeah.
And they're not going to in this game. It's whether or not Georgia can keep up with them. And keeping up means scoring inside the red zone, which they have not done against any team. Look at Auburn's defense.
That's true.
They had 4 red zone trips in that game. 3 times they made it all the way to the 2-yard line. You know how many times they scored?
How many?
0.
None.
Right. None.
That's a problem.
Auburn's defense is not as good as Alabama.
That's very true.
And this is only 2 weeks ago.
Right.
And you haven't had much prep because you played UMass and Georgia Tech. Good wins,
yeah,
but not the same thing.
Not the same thing.
So we saw them play the top defenses, and when they did, LSU couldn't score in the red zone. Auburn couldn't score in the red zone.
Florida too.
Washington was the same way in week 1.
Yeah.
So that is the thing that they have to focus on because Alabama's defense is going to bring it, and so will Georgia's. It's just whether or not that offense can score against the defense inside the 20, inside the 10.
We've talked about again the quarterbacks here. Those are familiar faces. A lot of similar stars or rising stars on the defensive units. There are X factors though. There's someone on either side of the ball that could surprise us or play a bigger role than we expect. Jack, is there an X factor for both teams?
I got a few here. Start off with the wide receiving cores for both teams.
Yeah.
We've heard so much about Alabama's receiving core. We're talking about Jerry Jeudy, Jalen Waddle, Irv Smith, Henry Ruggs. You know, that whole squad. I mean, Jerry Jeudy has over 1,000 yards. He's the only receiver in the SEC that has over 1,000 yards receiving.
Really? That's incredible.
Only one.
That man can get open.
Yes.
He's a problem when he gets in.
Oh my God.
Jerry Jeudy and Henry Ruggs, the only receivers in the SEC with more than 10 receiving touchdowns so far. Like, this receiving core is legit. But the one thing we have not heard a lot of is Georgia's receiving core.
Okay.
So we know about Mecole Hardman. We know about J.J. Hallman. We know about Riley Ridley. Okay. Isaac Nada has come up in the last few weeks as kind of that security blanket for Jake Fromm. We haven't really, before the Florida game, we hadn't really heard him since Jacob Eason left.
That's true.
And then Terry Godwin, he's been a big play threat downfield. The receiving cores for Georgia is going to need to show up and take the load a little bit off of that rushing attack, because if they can't get going in the passing game, then it's going to be a long day for that Georgia offense. And then the other thing I want to bring up is the special teams for both teams. Now, Georgia, they've been pretty solid. You got Rodrigo Blankenship, who's been pretty solid. He ranks in top 5 in field goal percentage in the SEC. He is dead accurate on extra points. He hasn't missed one. Meanwhile, for Alabama, Joseph Bolivas, their kicker, he's missed 5 extra points so far this year. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that the game's going to come down to an extra point, but what I'm saying is, is that
never know in the SEC championship.
If this game gets close, and you're driving down the field to try to get a game winner, you know, I kind of give the advantage to Georgia over Alabama here when it comes to that. And also kick returners, both tops in the SEC, Mecole Hardman for Georgia, Jalen Waddle for Alabama.
Both of those guys, if you punt the ball to them, just get ready for something electric to happen. Coach Saban has actually mentioned that Mecole Hardman is a problem in his earlier in the weekly presser getting ready for this game. So either way, it's going to be really exciting. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. And well, guys, stick around. We have more of the Showdown and A-Town special coming up right after this. Here's a look at the rest of your CBS Sports schedule. Coming up next is the CBS Sports Special, World's Toughest Mudder, followed by the Drive to Atlanta. Then at 3 Eastern, 2 Central, a special hour-long edition of College Football Today, live from Atlanta, followed by the Showdown. Georgia and Alabama kickoff is set for just after 4 Eastern, and we'll have team coverage from Atlanta coming up tonight on the News 3 Night Watch. As far as the upcoming SEC Championship, could you honestly ask for anything better? A rematch of one of the greatest national championship games we've seen in recent history. Now again, head coach Nick Saban is undefeated when he faces former assistant coaches that were promoted to a head coaching position. We'll see if head coach Kirby Smart can be the first Saban disciple to take down his mentor. After all, back in January, Saban needed overtime to beat Coach Smart. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Stick with News 3 all day as we cover the showdown in A-Town. You can follow us on Twitter for live coverage today at WRBL Sports. Remember, you can watch the game right here on WRBL at 4 Eastern, 3 Central, and we'll have team coverage of both Alabama and Georgia tonight on the Night Watch. Enjoy the SEC Championship game, y'all. We'll see you later tonight.